Hello, it's Sucha here, and today I'm going to be talking about the sun, about skin pigmentation, about getting tan, about fake tans, about sunscreen, about all the things as far as our skin and ourselves in relationship to the sun, or what I'd like to really call him as our holy eternal provider of life and light. Because my relationship to the sun, how it is now, wasn't always the same. In fact, I grew up resenting the sun, and this is where the story really starts for me. Because growing up, I remember vividly in high school, I would go tanning with my friends at the pool because they wanted to go tanning, and in my head, I was just like, why the fuck would you voluntarily tan? Because growing up, I just wanted to be lighter skinned. Like, I'm always prone to being darker. It's in my roots. You know, I'm Indian. My dad's side of the family is actually really dark. My mom's side's a lot lighter actually, but obviously darker is going to be more dominant. So my brother and I mean, we can just go out in the sun 10 minutes and get like a few shades darker already, make that an hour or 2 hours, and we're literally like a completely different season, a completely different person. So when my friends would go tanning, I was just like, I do not want to be here. But obviously I didn't want to not hang out with them. So I was that weirdo who'd wear like a sweater or a jacket and like long sleeves and a hat and just like try to cover up in all the ways possible while tanning in the peak of summer, laying out all covered up. It was so annoying. I was literally like, can we do anything else besides tan? And on top of that, I had different things that I was insecure about at that time with my body, like stretch marks and razor bumps, and obviously just like my body physique and my relationship to my body. So there was a whole plethora of things, but not wanting to get darker was a huge part of why I would pretty much want to be covered up most of my life. Now, on top of me not wanting to be darker and all of the cultural, I don't want to call it racism, because not even within races, but even in India, it's encouraged and looked up upon people who are lighter skinned. Just the media in general encourages us not to be out in the sun. And the biggest thing that we always hear about is skin cancer, of course, and then also skin damage, like getting wrinkles, looking older, all of these things, because apparently the sun is so bad. And it shifted us to being in this culture of actually being afraid of the sun and wanting to put a bunch of sunscreen on and not wanting to be in the sun as much and wanting to cover our faces completely. And what's crazy is that all of the things that we're doing to get out of the sun is probably doing us more harm than actually being in the sun and taking in all of the benefits of the amazing sunlight that we could be getting and just really illuminating in. And vitamin D, of course, is huge, but there's so many other things. I want to touch on sunscreen because sunscreen is a huge industry. And for some reason growing up, like, even though I tan really easily and I tan well, I was very prone to getting burnt as well. So if I do spend a good few hours out in the sun in direct sunlight, that's not during like sunrise or sunset time, my shoulders definitely get burnt if they're exposed, and it does hurt and they do start peeling. But definitely my burns are not as bad as some people get in the sun. For some reason growing up, like, it just never felt good to wear sunscreen. So although, you know, I didn't burn as bad, like, I was still suggested to wear sunscreen to protect my face, to protect something that I didn't even know what I had to protect myself about from the sun. And so sometimes I'd wear sunscreen, but the smell was just disgusting to me. And it was just such a huge industry. And I'm just like, this smells like so many chemicals, but apparently it's protecting us. And then come recently, there's a lot of information being shown how the sunscreen companies are actually using so many chemicals that's probably doing way more harm than just being out in the sun without any sunscreen. So our ancestors have actually had darker pigmentation. We live near the equator for thousands and thousands and even like millions of years. And it wasn't until actually just more recent evolution that we started getting lighter pigmentation. And that's because we migrated further away from the equator. We migrated to mountainous places and different countries and parts of the world, like, north of Europe, where there was less sunlight. And so that actually gave us a lighter pigmentation and actually less body hair as well. And those were ways that we adapted and evolved to be in areas with less sunlight. So that's why people who have lighter pigmentation might not burn or tan the same way as someone like me with darker pigmentation may. That being said, we are all still Homo sapiens at the end of the day, right? We all still have the same ancestors, and it hasn't even been that long since our evolution of pigmentation change. So it's really important to address that getting vitamin D from the sun is so vital for us. There's a little bit we can get from food, but it's really just not as bioavailable or as abundant as getting the vitamin D from the sun. And if we think about how our ancestors lived their lives, they actually spent majority of the hours during the day under the sunlight. They woke up with the sunrise, and then they went to sleep with the sunset, and they really evolved their lifestyles around the sun. And so now I really don't even have to explain like our lifestyles now. That's more dormant, more indoors, more behind screens. And so even if we're getting like a 30-minute walk during the day, it's still not anywhere close to the amount of sunlight we would have gotten years and years and years and years and years ago. So that's why, of course, if we are in less lit areas, or we know that we're having an indoor lifestyle and we literally cannot spend more time in the sun, that's where vitamin D supplementation can be very useful. However, I'm just such a big advocate of not using supplements and getting that from our real world elements and food and vital life force, which is the sun. And so really prioritizing that time. And if that means actually rethinking the way we live our lives, our occupations, and all of that, being able to prioritize the sun is going to be very, very important. And so knowing this has actually shifted my relationship to the sun a lot throughout the years, because I told you growing up, I resented the sun. I didn't want to get darker. And I was just like wanting to be out of the sun at all costs. Like anytime I knew I was going to be in the sun for more than 5 minutes, I was packing a cardigan, I was packing a hat, I was packing sunglasses, I was packing everything to cover myself up, even if that meant it was going to be like 90 degrees, which is absolutely ridiculous, because now I just love to embrace the sweat. And especially being in Miami was actually so healing for my relationship with the sun, because here it's just humid all the time. You can't avoid the sun. It's literally known as the sunshine state. And so that allowed me to really embrace it. And people are a lot more tanner here as well. So being able to be in a place that was diverse in that way, and there was more tanness. And so for me, it didn't feel like something I had to hold back. And of course, that's my own relationship with myself. But now that I've been able to heal my relationship with the sun, I'm able to take this empowerment and that embrace with me everywhere I go, even if it's a place where there's a lot more lighter skinned people. This, of course, brings us to the conversation of self-love, which I just have to talk about, because of course, in our culture, not only are we encouraged to not be out in the sun a lot more, and we're encouraged to wear sunscreen all the time, but we're also, it's very normalized to get fake tans. And again, nothing wrong with what people choose to do with their bodies, but this again is going to be some kind of simulation of fake sunlight, or it's going to be actual chemicals that are technically staining our bodies. And so being able to really just embrace yourself for how you are, like your true pigmentation is absolutely beautiful. Because some people, it's crazy to me, like, I'd have friends who would literally go out of their way to be tanner, and my entire life I wished I could be their skin shade, which was lighter. And then I'll have people tell me, oh, I'm trying to get tan like you, and I'm like, I've been trying to be like you my entire life. And so this just goes to show that we're in this like lifelong battle of trying to not be ourselves and fit into a different mold, whereas like we actually, our diversity adds to the mold of just being so unique within ourselves. So before getting the fake tan, or trying to alter your skin in a different way, or trying to purposely stay out of the sun, or purposely stay in the sun with the priority of trying to be a certain way, really rethink and reconnect with yourself. again, that being said, the reason why it's actually really important and could be nice to get a real tan out in the sun is that maintaining a tan, especially during the summertime, is a really good indication that you're absorbing and maintaining enough vitamin D to sustain you even throughout the winter. So let's say for me, like, I should just embrace my tan, and I'm probably soaking in a lot of vitamin D just by being in the sun. Or even right now, I'm kind of sitting directly in the sun, even though I'm indoors, and soaking that up. And for someone else, let's say you have a lighter pigmentation. Let's say the first few times you go out into the sunlight and you are prone to getting burnt. So just staying out there like a little bit less than you would need to before you start getting burnt. And as you build that up into a constant practice, your skin and your body's actually going to start to create this resilience and this more permanent tan, and it's really going to soak up that vitamin D and create, again, that resilience with your skin. And that's a really amazing way to build up that tan. I know Carnivore MD, or AKA Dr. Paul Saladino, talks about this a lot, and he is of Caucasian descent, but he has this really intense tan he's built up just from surfing in Costa Rica. And that's a really great example, because I know for me, obviously my pigmentation is different, but I'm just sharing this to show that no matter where you are in the world, the sunlight is so vital for us. So regardless if you lived a lifestyle growing up where you were trying to avoid the sun, or if you were just always fine with the sun and trying to be in the sun more often, the way that I really shifted my relationship to the sun is so beautiful now. And I literally feel like when I have the sunlight on my face that I'm absorbing and soaking it in. And the way I've been able to view the sun, like, he has been there for literally, it feels like eternity for all of our ancestors. He's been a constant, and we've created our lifestyles to revolve around the sun, right? And we have this natural, beautiful circadian rhythm because the sun is literally giving us life and light, and really just bringing life to, we see it every day in plants, we see it in animals, we literally see it in humans. If we're not getting enough sunlight, then we are going to be depressed, we're going to be sad, for some even suicidal. So literally that mood regulation, it's so amazing to be able to go into the sunlight and just soak up all of the amazing litness it's giving you, and also realizing vitamin D is huge for us. I mean, vitamin D is not just a vitamin. You can think of it as a hormone. It's doing so much for our bodies rather than just being one little nutrient that we need amongst everything else. It's something that's like a holy regulator of our bodies, and that's what hormones do, right? So it's regulating our mood, it's regulating our metabolism, it's even helping with our fertility, and then our immunity, like cell growth, repair, for our muscles, for our skeletal system, for just everything going on in our bodies. For a lot of people, even with your health journey, let's say you're trying to lose weight or build muscle and maybe nothing is working, and sometimes just going in the sun itself can be huge for just regulating all of that in your body. You guys, I can't stress enough like how important that sunlight is, and especially that sunrise, sunset time, because of course the direct sunlight can be really harsh and it can burn some of us, or just be really hot temperature wise for a lot of us to sustain. But if you can start getting up and catching the sunsets as well, so sunrises and sunsets, you can actually do an eye gazing meditation, because at that time it's a lot safer for us to be in that direct contact with the sunlight and take in all of that beautiful red light. That's where we get that red light therapy, and we're getting in all that red light, which is why we call it golden hour during the sunrise sunset time. All right guys, so I hope you enjoyed that video. This is just a reminder to get out in the sun, soak it up, and just create that beautiful relationship where you can start meditating with the sun, and you can start really just creating that beautiful connection where the time in the sun can be sacred, and we're appreciating the sun, because we have so much to be grateful for, but we forget that the sun is a provider of so much for the plants, for us humans, for animals, for our mood, for everything. It's just regulating and just keeping all of the planets in that revolution as well is so powerful. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy this little spiel on sunlight and skin and maybe any insecurity that you're dealing with, if you do have darker or even lighter pigmentation, please give this video a thumbs up and let me know of your stories, your thoughts and experiences on this. And with so much love, Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope to see you back here soon.